Hey, welcome on in, welcome in, welcome in. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Welcome to Conquer City. Where are all of my conquerors at? Hey y'all, I am super excited today. Today is is a special day. It's going down in history. I'm actually doing my own first recording. It's local. So we'll see how this goes. but I'm really excited at my first guest. We go way back, like 2011 back. So yeah, it has been some time, but we used to work together. So we're gonna get into that a little bit, give you a little bit of history, but I want to welcome you all to Conquer City, where we are all more than conquerors. And so help me welcome my first guest. Well, he's not the first. We can say first local guest. We'll say that. All right. But welcome in my guest, Fred Beaty.
Hey, yep, it is.
Okay, I had to make sure, like.
Thank you for
having me here, man. It's a pleasure and it's an honor and it's a privilege. I thank you for that, and I am looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, me too. Me too.
You tell everybody that where we met. Yeah, 2011 is about right.
Yeah, 2010, 2011, like.
Southeast Trans. Oh
man.
Oh, but when. Oof.
Southeast Trans on deck. So just to kind of get just a brief little synopsis, everybody. So Southeast Trans basically is this company where we were doing dispatch for
everybody.
Yeah, for
everybody.
For Medicare. I wonder, can we have this on air? But we're gonna put it on air. So anyway, we were doing dispatching for Medicaid. We didn't do Medicare?
Nah.
Okay, Medicaid.
They ain't diving in that.
Medicaid. We did dispatching for patients or people, seniors that needed rides, right? So if you need a ride, call. No, I'm lying. Okay. But yeah, so that's basically what we were doing. And to be honest with you, like, we had so much fun at Southeast Trans. Like,
oh man,
it was so much fun. Like, I can't say talking to some of the people was fun, but the experience. Yeah, the employees, like, we had a whole time there. Like,
it was never a dull moment.
No, not at all. So it was just I remember I actually got pregnant. Oh, that's another story. Okay, but I got pregnant with my son Cam. So that's the reason why I ended up leaving Southeast Trans. But yeah, good times. So, Fred.
Hey.
Listen, tell me about yourself, friend. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Now, we ain't gonna get into the deep stuff yet. I'll give you the green light on that. I'll let you know, like, when we gonna go deep. But tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's see. Well, right now I'm a podcaster like you. I do mostly audio stuff. So I have a channel on Spotify. I talk about video game universes. I talk about I talk a little bit about mental health, but also I just talk about a variety of subjects and any and everything. But that playlist goes way back to when I started in like 2021 when I had other people with me.
Wow.
So that's a very long playlist. I also write books. I'm jumping into the audiobook scene now, trying to doing some auditions for some audiobooks. I actually did have an audiobook published. So I need to find out what that book is and let everybody know where they can find it so they can hear it.
Yes.
So,
okay, if you think about it.
I got you.
Think about it. Or if you don't think about it, what we can do is we can just throw it on the YouTube channel, like in the comments or something like that. Speaking of YouTube, listen, they said they were going to fire me if I didn't mention this. Follow me on, please like and subscribe at Conquer City 01. Conquer City 01. Like and subscribe, please. And do you have one?
I have a YouTube channel. It's on Trailblazer Radio, but where people can really get in contact and connect with me is on my Spotify channel, which is Trailblazer Radio. So that's where mostly all the repository of all our audio podcasts are, old and new. So if you guys are interested, go check out my Spotify page. I got some great stuff on the Spotify page now. If you are a video game fan.
I was just finna to say, let's get into this whole video. Yeah. Listen, hold on, y'all. So, hold on, wait. So he was like, come on, go check me out. He was like, go check me out on Spotify. He was like, see what I'm into. And I said, okay, cool. And, I briefly just went to go check it out, right? And I was like, what? I said, are we talking about the universe? What exactly? I said, what are we talking about here? And I said, you know what? I said, let me do this when I really have time to really understand. So I said, I was going to ask him when we got on the show, hey, tell me a little bit. So what kind of video game are we talking about here?
So I've talked about a couple of video games. I started with Battlefield, the Battlefield franchise from the beginning to its current iteration. I talked about the Titanfall franchise from its beginning to its current iteration. And I've been very heavily into Warhammer 40K. For those that don't know about Warhammer 40K, it is a tabletop miniatures game by Game Workshop. And they've done it since 1987. So I've been heavily into the Warhammer community. I've been watching a lot of content creators and then kind of curating my content, not with them, but also just talking about similar things, but using a different twist. Adding my own little twist to it, my own little flavor to it. So I've talked about a lot of stuff on that universe. So that's kind of where I am right now. I've been heavily into that. I am in an anime, but I don't watch a lot of it. But what else do I do? I do play video games, but I don't do that a lot either, because I'm mostly either recording a podcast or I'm writing something.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about that writing something. So you wrote six
books.
I thought it was 6. Okay, see, you should never second guess yourself. Let me tell y'all, don't second guess yourself. When your mind tell you something, go with it. Because my mind said he wrote 6 books. Okay, so tell me, what are these books? What are they called? What are they named?
Okay, so from the first one. So the first one initially was called A Broken Circle. That is, I was with a publisher, Diamond Cut Publications at the time. Great publisher, great people. I just decided to go in a different direction, go as an independent author. And they were very nice enough to let me have my manuscript and give me back the rights to the book. So I just went back in the lab, did some more writing, a little more editing, added more content to the book, and then the book became Broken Chains. Now, this book is about domestic violence. It's loosely based on my own personal experience with it, from both the abuser side and also the abused side. So there are 4 characters, two men, two ladies. Everybody's situation is different. Everybody's domestic violence story is different. The second book is The Road Less Traveled. Now, I shift from domestic violence. Now I shift over to mental health. Talk about, most definitely we talk about grief and loss. We also talk about, when men, especially young men, go through the things that life puts them through, and we talk about, unaliving themselves and with depression and all the things that go with that. So there's resolutions with those two. Now, I made a shift from chapter books and I went into poetry. The first poetry book I wrote was Tapestry, The Interwoven Soul. And as you'll see from that book on, there's a theme with this. So the first one was my first jump into writing poetry. And it was an interesting ride because I didn't think I had poetic verse in me. But then when people were reading it, they were like, man, this is good. So the next one was, again, How I See It, to Perspective Soul. Again, you're gonna see a trend here. So now this book is based upon, it's still poetry. Now it's based on how I see things, how I see my life, how I view things, the prism of how I view things, the lens of how I view things. And basically love, life, relationships, my own personal journey with with my own mental health journey, going through grief, going through loss, dealing with the depression and everything else that goes with that. And the next book became, what was it? The Thoughts, the Contemplative Soul. Again, personal thought process on how I view things. Now this became more, not only just poems, but short stories.
Okay.
So I added short stories to it. Now my brother did contribute to one of the short stories because it was something that I really.
Please give him credit.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So shout out to my brother Cedric.
Nobody
Beaty.
hitting me up talking about, hey, you had that show and you didn't shout out my name.
Nah, shout out to my brother Cedric Beaty, man, because he wrote the short story called "Dig In," and it was something that was very, very. It helped me, but also a lot of people that responded said it helped them as well. So again, just my own personal thoughts on things. So the next thing we go to avenues, the traveling soul. Now my thought process and my perspectives are a lot more refined. Now it's just my worldview and my opinions and my thoughts, just unedited, unfiltered, everything. Short stories, still poetic verse there. Now the worldview is a little bit more, hard line attitude, because now I'm looking at the political landscape, but I'm also looking at how the relationships between us as black men and black women are just continuing to deteriorate. And I'm also looking at, my own personal journey again, where I've had to restart and rethink and then recalibrate and keep moving, try to find a way to keep moving forward. So each one of those has a soul thing on it, because it's something that comes from my soul, comes from my heart and my soul. Because a lot of those poems are very personal to me. A lot of the short stories are very personal to me. One of the short stories that I wrote was a love letter to my brothers, and this is to all my black brothers. And it was a very heartfelt letter that I wrote. And this, for me, it speaks to not only how I feel as a black man, but also to what I think other brothers may feel as black men. Because again, not to disparage any other race of people, but we as black men go through we carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. Right. And when you're already counted out before you're counted in, it makes things a lot worse. So that's where all those books are. I mean, I'm working on another one. It's called Soliloquies, an Emotional Soul. So this one is gonna be a lot of the emotions that I've felt that I've experienced over the last maybe 6 or so years. And I'm writing about rage. I'm writing about anger, fear, loathing, and still writing about grief and loss and things of that nature. But a lot of the poetry that I've written thus far have been based on songs that I've heard. I had a poem called Victory Lap, talking about how I remember a lot of my deceased people, my deceased family members, my aunt, my uncle, both my paternal grandmother, my maternal and paternal grandmother. So it was based, and Victory Lap is a song by Nipsey Hussle. So a lot of the things I've written were based on songs that I've heard, and those songs have a lot of meaning to me. I listen to a whole lot of music, not a lot of rap and hip hop, so to speak. I'm mostly into lo-fi, instrumental stuff, but a lot of those songs inspire me to write. And there's just one guy, this one Christian rapper that I listen to a lot, and his name is Dizzy 8. He has songs that really speak to me as a person, and a lot of those poetry I've written were based on songs that I've heard that he's performed. So I try to use music as kind of like a guide for my life too. Certain songs kind of put me in certain moods, but I try to kind of keep it real low key, or real kind of, what's the word I want to use? Real kind of even tone. So I do listen to a lot of lo-fi stuff, and I am heavily into that now. And that's because I watch a lot of Adult Swim too. So Adult Swim pulled me into that.
Well, I just remember back in the day when I used to sneak and watch Adult Swim. I'd be like my dad would be like, come on. I'd be like, I'm just in there, like, I'm just trying to
I just
see
want to
what's
watch
on
what
here.
y'all watching.
Right. And it would be hilarious. Like some of that stuff. What was on there? Was it oh my God.
Regular show, home movies. Um, what else was on there?
I feel like was Beavis and Butthead on Adult Swim?
Never.
What other was
that's
that was MTV.
That's MTV.
That
That's
was MTV.
yeah.
Okay, my bad. But I just remember, like, you know, when you tell a child that you shouldn't, that you don't want them to do it, and they just be like,
I'm curious.
I want to do it. Yep. Yeah. Never tell me not to do something.
Because you're going to do it anyway.
Because I'm going to do it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a natural bucker. Like, I don't know why. If you tell me that the sky is purple, not literally, but if you tell me to go left, I'm probably going to be like, let me go right, or let me go to the left. You tell me don't go to the left, I'm gonna go to the left. You tell me go to the right, I'm probably gonna go to the right. I don't know why, but that's me. But but enough about me. But it sounds to me, man, 6 books. Like, first off, congratulations.
Thank
because
you.
that is quite the accomplishment. Like, I've been trying to write the same book for the last probably 10 years. No, I won't say 10 years. I will say probably for the last, I will say 3. I'm shaming myself. Don't judge me, y'all. I said I'm conquering stuff, and I am conquering procrastination. And I won't say it's procrastination. Let me first say this. I work full time. Okay. I'm a single mother. So those are 2 major jobs in itself. I am a praise and worship leader. I'm over the women. Like, the list goes on and on. So we're not going to sit up here. What y'all not going to do is judge me, judge your mama. Okay. Like my cousin said in the other episode, judge your mama. But I will get my book done. Fred, you have inspired me.
You got to find time.
I know. But you know what? I'm just getting this baby off, trying to get Conquer City, off the floor. And we going international, y'all. That's how I feel about it. But
yes, ma'am.
I will. Once this is established more, I promise you, I am going to get my book done. I will say in 2027, hold me to it. Hold me to it.
Oh, you going?
Y'all hold me to it. 2027. The book is coming out. I would tell y'all the title, but I don't want y'all to steal it. Ha!
Oh,
anyway.
You're going to get a text from me because I'm going to put 2027. That's all I'm
putting on there. Please do. I'm putting it on myself. I am putting it on myself. But again, congratulations on the books. Like, wow. From just writing the actual, novels, and then shifting to poetry, and then shifting from poetry and doing short stories. Again, thanks, brother. Cedric.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Cedric. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. But that is really, really amazing. Like, I always admire people who actually set out to do something and stick to it. Mm-hmm. And not only did you stick to it, but like, you set out and you did several. And now you're doing your own podcast. Okay, shout out Trailblazers.
Hey,
Trailblazer Radio.
Yes, sir.
Spotify. Go hit them up, y'all.
Yes,
especially
sir.
if you want to.
Y'all
Battleship.
Y'all want to nerd out.
Somebody.
But if y'all want to nerd out, just hit me up. Just
hit them up. Yeah. Hit them up. Okay. I'm not a nerd yet, but but hit them up. Okay. But congratulations on everything that you are doing.
Thank you.
It is really, really good to see you doing so well. Especially after some of the things that some of the things that life has thrown your way, So with that said, let me adjust my mic a little bit. Cause let me just say this, and I preface all of my episodes with this. So listen, check your volume, because faith is about to get loud. So now that we've gotten all the nice things out of the way, so we talk about on this show, we're all more than conquerors,
right?
And so with that being said, that means that we had to have faced something, or we had to have something that we conquered. So, um, take me back. Take me back to 2015, where pretty much your entire life was changed.
So, 2015, I get a phone call that no parent should ever receive at all. Get a phone call from my son's grandmother, and she mentioned to me that he was taken away from us by a police involved shooting. Now, at the time, I was in Florida. Me and my ex-wife were in Florida. We were now I got this call on July 4th of 2015. So, Independence Day, so to speak. I'm at a Walmart. Just grabbed the grill, but I was about to put it in the cart. Nope, dropped it. For the span of about I'd say about a minute and a half, perhaps, probably longer. Everything just seemed to just slow down. Everybody that was walking fast was walking very slow. Time just went slow to a crawl. And I'm just here in the middle of the aisle, just kind of just transfixed and trying to just gather my thoughts and figure out what did I just hear. No, I did not. Did I just hear that my son was taken away from us? Yeah, you heard it, but I need to hear that again. I need to confirm that. So when time didn't slow down again, I asked his grandma, hey, did you really just say what I think you just said? She did. And that really just kind of, it shook me, but I knew I had to get back home. Went to the checkout, got what I needed to check out. Now, normally from Walmart to that where we were living at is about a 5 to 10 minute drive. It took me 30 minutes to get home because I had to keep pulling over to the side of the freeway because my hands were shaking so hard that I couldn't hold on to the steering wheel. Get there, put things away. Told my ex-wife, told the kids that their brother was gone.
Now, to be clear, at this time you all were still married.
Yeah, we were.
Right.
So there was such a deluge of emotion at that point. This was a child. This was a kid that, my wife at the time took in as her own. Encouraged him, spoke life to him, spoke so much positive things to him, pushed him toward the right direction. And to hear this was kind of unfathomable. And the phone calls that I received, one phone call was very disparaging. It was an investigator. Don't know the guy's name. Don't care to know the guy's name. Doesn't matter. Asking questions like, was your son ever involved in a gang? No. Wasn't affiliated with anybody that I know of. He didn't carry a weapon that I know of or anything of that nature. From what I know, from my knowledge and what I've seen, he did catch a record here in Georgia. But he did his time. He did his time here. And then other things. I mean, and then you get the newspaper reports and stuff like that saying that did he have a criminal record in Georgia? Why should that even matter?
Right. Because we all get a do-over.
Yeah. And this was a kid who was working on doing a 180. Turn his life around. He kind of knew that where he was at was a wrong way road, and he just wanted to just do better. And I applaud him for that. I applaud him for making the attempt. But let's see. So the funeral, the homegoing ceremony happens. I travel back down to Virginia, to Newport News, Virginia, a place I hadn't been since 1992. When I was in the military. So go back down there. you realize things have changed. A lot of things have changed. I didn't think that I would have been accepted or even received there, but there was so much love and a care and affection there. It made me feel like I actually belonged. And I say that because when I got out the military, the relationship with my son was really non-existent at that point. And that was by my choice, and I've taken responsibility and accountability for that. So we get down there. So his homegoing was July 13th. My birthday was the following day. Well, my birthday was the day before.
Day before, yeah.
And his wake was that day. I'm like, oh boy, this ain't gonna be a good day. I think one of the more polarizing images is that, and I think this could be for anyone who's lost a person, seeing that your deceased loved one in that place, not moving, not active, not saying anything. Not only was it polarizing for me, but it was also highly emotional for me. To see something that me and his mother and God helped us create.
Yeah.
No longer here. Like, this ain't real. This ain't happening. His homegoing ceremony was the next day, and I don't even remember. I don't even know if I was even present at that point. I think I got so emotionally numb at that point. It was like, I don't even know if I was even present. I heard words and I don't even know if I was present. I probably was, but I know personally I wasn't. And then we all went to the burial site, and the last thing, I think the other polarizing moment for me, the last thing you see is that container that houses your loved one go back into the earth. I'm like, this ain't real. God, this has got to be a nightmare. Please, right. If it is, please just pinch me and wake me up.
Wake me up.
I see his mom break down, and I'm just standing there like, to offer words of comfort. I mean, what words could I offer at that point? I couldn't. We both could say to each other, "Sorry for your loss." Would that really mean any? Would have had any meaning?
Any weight, or
would it carry any weight? My wife at the time, she was there, and her brother and my mother-in-law were there. They supported me, and I was very grateful for that, because I think if I would have went there solo dolo with just me and my wife at the time, that would have been hard. That would have been horrible. We get back to Florida. We get back to Florida now. Things are different, but they're not the same either. They're not the same, but they're also very different. I think there was a lot of anger in me, resentment, a lot of self-loathing and self-disappointment, because I think at the time when he passed, I thought that I had failed him because he wasn't here. And I'm apologizing. God, I'm sorry that I failed your child. And I'm profusely doing that. And the anger led to a lot of things. I lost a couple of jobs due to that.
Which, understandably so. And I'm sure that in those moments and in that time, I'm not going to say that you probably didn't realize it, but grief has a way of seeping out and showing up in all kind of ways. And I can only, I can't imagine, losing a child. And so I could only imagine how that just would have showed up in your life with how you interacted with people, or how you showed up in your marriage. And I'm sure that this impacted your marriage as well.
It did a lot because at the time when we lost Kwanzaa, my wife Erica, she lost her dad. So now I have to set my grief aside to help her move forward with hers. Now, not to be disparaging, because I'm not. I mean, I think we both helped each other as much as we possibly could through the process. We both try to be positive with each other and try to give each other, be encouraging to each other, with varying degrees of success and failure. I know with me, there was a lot more for me, because this is not to say that losing one person over another is more important or holds more sway.
Right.
Because for me, the way I look at it now, loss is lost, no matter who it is that you lose, whether it's a distant cousin or a brother or sister. But there were rocky roads in that. I mean, led to my infidelity, because again, thinking that a person is supposed to be there for you and then they're not, but then you realize after talking with them after so many years after it transpired that they really were. It's just that I was too ignorant to see that, and I was blinded by my own grief and my own rage to see that. We've talked, and I've apologized and made my amends with that, with her and with God. And I just said, hey, I apologize for me. I'm apologizing for me and my actions. I take accountability and responsibility for that. And that's all I really can do at that moment. Even in that, the Commonwealth's attorney, they had this little conference, whatever you want to call it. They say that the officer was justified in the shooting. And that was just, I think for a lot of people, that was a nail in the coffin for a lot of people. For me, that really wasn't. I think that was kind of the start of a lot of things. A lot of internet activism, but a lot of personal activism too. And now I got this now I have this attitude like like NWA in California, screw the police and all that stuff. Right. Who y'all don't care about us, so why should I care about y'all? And then watching other things transpire, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, and so many other people.
Right.
Prior to that and after that.
Because honestly, in this timing, it just kind of seemed to be that the police shootings were
rampant.
Yes. And I'm not speaking against law enforcement in any type of way. I do wholeheartedly believe that there are police officers and sheriffs and deputies that really are there to protect the people, and that they love their job, and that they really do lay their life on the line to protect people that ultimately, especially be due to social media, sensationalizing a lot of things. And I'm not to say that in a negative way, because social media was good and bad, right? It shed a lot of light on, hey, we need law enforcement, but we need y'all to be law enforcement.
Right.
We need you all to, don't shoot first and think later. And it seemed, as you stated before, nothing against any other races, but being Black, we are judged before we even walk in the door.
Right.
You automatically assume we're guilty.
Right.
And society has programmed so many in such a way. So,
Right.
when you think of George Floyd and all of those, and this happened right around that time. So I could only imagine that really severely impacted the way that you looked at law enforcement. I imagine you probably had a deep, sustained, like, just I don't want to say a hatred for them, but I can see maybe you were angry.
But
Yeah.
also avoidant, because I didn't want to be in that same situation. And then again, where like the movie The Hate You Give comes out, and now it introduces people being able to record these incidents. That gives more credence to how certain things are being handled by law enforcement, but also gives credence to how we as people interact with them. So the way I look at it now, and again, my thought process has changed a lot from then to now, because I've also been exposed to law enforcement, especially out here in Conyers. There's this lieutenant for the Conyers Police Force, and he did an Easter thing for the people in the community, and I watched this, and I'm watching the police officers interact with the kids and the adults and the people and the elders in the neighborhood, in the community that they're serving, and I'm watching this glorious thing just happen, and it's like, so this can actually work.
There are people that care.
Yeah.
There are police officers that care.
Yeah. And I'm looking at that from the aspect of, okay, this can work. This can really be good. But for every good apple, there's always a bad apple.
Yes.
And D.L. Hughley said it best. You can't just cut the branches from the tree. You got to get to the roots.
Yes.
You got to dig out the roots. Just because you're picking the bad apples off the tree, that means but this tree still exists. Or if you got to cut down a tree, you got to cut down a tree, but you still got to get to the roots. You have to you got to uproot the tree and maybe replant the tree. But
I'm gonna go so far as to say maybe the whole forest needs to be, I don't want to say chopped down, but I only say that in a way of our country.
Yeah.
And we won't go there because we'll be here all night.
Man, look.
But it just goes back to, our history and how we are looked at as a people. And I think, of course, and I have to, I don't want to say play devil's advocate, but I am a true believer of trying to see things from other people's point of view, from their perspective as well.
Of course.
And so if I am to empathize, and if I am to put myself in the other officer's shoes, and if you've been told nothing good about certain people, and you've been taught that these people are bad, even though you may not believe it, and you're in the society that says that we're all created equal, right? But it goes back to your roots, and what granddaddy said, and you're thinking, I'm a good person. I love all people, But if it's been ingrained in your brain, and your brain has been trained subconsciously that these people are bad, when I see black people, hey, he's probably gonna shoot me. He probably has a gun. So I'm scared for my life. I don't know what's going to happen. And he's probably in a gang, automatically bad. So you go in these situations automatically thinking, I have to shoot first so that I can save my own life. And I'm not saying this is right, because this is definitely wrong. But I will say I can only think that is why they do. And some of it is abuse of power, let's be clear. Which I am very happy that social media did help shed a lot of light on, because we knew that it was there, but nowhere near to the magnitude of how much it was really being done. So again, nothing against law enforcement. I think that I like to think positively, right? I like to think that majority of law enforcement is there to protect and serve. I have family
in law enforcement.
Yes, I do. My aunt, she was a detective. As a matter of fact, so let me give you a little Black history here. So I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and my late grandfather, who I never had the chance to meet, he died the year before I was born, but he was actually the first Black detective in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I have to believe that I know there is good law enforcement out here. Right. It's just, we're still, even now, years later, we are still probably trying to get to those roots, dig up those roots. But I'm glad that I would hope that we are making some sort of headway, and that they have retrained the police officers on how they approach and really how they see people, how they see us, that it's not just us and them, like it's us versus them, that we are all human beings, and that I really am here to protect and serve,
And it goes back to the community policing thing. I've seen that at work, and I've seen the positive feedback that it gives back to the community. So I've personally seen it, and I'm like, okay, this is a big step forward. And for me, that changed my outlook. Complete 180. Like, okay, everybody's not bad. So I have to look at it from this aspect of, I can't judge every police officer just by one person's actions, or several other people's inactions. To give some context to what I just said. So when my son was killed, there were 3 officers there: a detective, a K-9 unit, and then another police officer. Only 1 out of the 3 police officers opened fire. Only 1. There were no body cameras or any of that. So the police officer that shot him was a detective. So imagine me getting an ME's report, and it says homicide. Like, okay, not cool. And there was a lot of fallout from that. I can say that there was a lot of fallout from that. There was a lawsuit. $10 million was reduced to the size of an average tax return. Wow. Because the person that was with my son has not come forward. I think in my own personal life, there were so many storms. I was navigating. I had no idea if I had a functional boat or not. There were at least 2 or 3 times where I tried to unalive myself. One time in 2018, and then twice in 2020, and then another time in 2021. And now it was still, all that stuff was still fresh, still dealing with all the stages of grief.
Yeah.
I can say now that I'm at the point where I can finally be at the acceptance stage. I know I go back and forth between acceptance and bargaining, because there are times where I would ask God, can you just please just replace us, just switch places. I'll gladly switch places with him. He was only here for like 33 years or so. I've been here for 53 years, 20 more years than he has. Just let's switch places. I've already lived my life. Just if it meant for him to be here with his family, I'll gladly trade places. And God's like, you're here for a reason.
Yes.
Well, what's the reason? I don't know the reason. He said, oh, you'll find out. Can you just tell me now? I like to know the end of the story before I get to the end of the story. No. You'll find out. But I mean, I think there were so many rifts. I mean, for me, there was a really big paradigm shift in me, because my attitude at that point was just really never been care. And I know I alienated some friends, even when me and my wife at the time were going through our thing and the infidelity happened. And I admitted that it was I had to admit it was my fault for that. And I think for me, I also went on a hot mic and painted her in a bad light while I'm still going through my own pain, my own personal pain. And that was wrong. That was inappropriate, that was wrong, and that wasn't right. But, I mean, those stages of grief, good God. I think every time I felt like I was getting through one stage, I kept going back, kept regressing. Every time I think I'm progressing, I'm regressing. Like, well, why am I going through all this? What's the purpose of all this? He's not here anymore. Well, you got to go through this if you're going to be able to do other things. You got to be able to conquer this if you're going to be able to move forward. And one of the things I like, my former pastor said this one thing, and it still sticks with me to this day. You cannot conquer what you do not confront.
Woo.
And if I was to conquer this grief thing, I had to confront it, and I had to face it head on, and not shirk away from it, not always be avoidant of it. I just say, okay, let me just roll up my sleeves and let's do this thing. If I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna go down and fight.
So when did you realize that you needed to really confront it?
Jeez. I think it was actually when I got back here. And it was a second attempt to unalive myself. I said, okay, this can't continue. This cannot continue. I'm now just going through the motions of just existing and not living.
Right.
And then I have this heavy burden of me being a man on my shoulders, but then I still have the additional burden of going through this process of grief. And at that point, I had no idea whether I was coming or going. Well, I knew I was coming and going, but I would think I was just kind of just going through the motions of, existing and not living. So I won't say I came across this. It's just something that I really just have to pray about and ask God for some sort of guidance for. I get these half answers sometimes. I'm like, God, just tell me the whole answer. I ain't trying to cheat, but I want to pass the test. Nah, you gonna pass the test, but you just gonna have to go through it. Don't do me like that.
Right.
So, and again, I also had to realize that I was my own hindrance. I was standing in my own way. I was the reason that I couldn't get my boat to safe harbor, because I'm sitting there trying to go through every storm and not knowing that my boat's getting tossed and turned, and
anytime I get to safe harbor, it ain't a boat left. It's just bits and pieces. And I had to realize that those bits and pieces were pieces of me that I was leaving everywhere. And I had to realize I had to stop bleeding on everybody. Going through something like grief, I know for me, my own personal experience, I ended up bleeding on a lot of people. All that anger, all that hurt, pain, and fear that trickled down to people that I cared about, people that I respected and admired, and some of those people kind of took a couple steps back from me for a good reason. And I understand. I didn't understand the reason then. I understand it now because they had to move away from me because they needed me to go through that on my own without assistance, without help. And there were sleepless nights. There were nights I would cry myself to sleep and then wake up and then cry some more. There were nights where come home from work and just drink heavily just to forget about it, or stay up all night playing a game or something else just to forget about it. And those were the rough times. Those were times where I knew that, well, I won't say I knew, but those were times where I knew I was feeding into self-destructive habits. And I had to get out of those habits. Being with, the family that I have, they threw some hard truths at me. Truths I didn't want to hear, but I had to. My mom told me, he's not here because God needed him up there. Mom, I know that, but I want him here. But also I had to realize another thing. And this was the most important thing for me to really kind of understand. I wasn't present that day when everything went down. I wasn't. Those 4 people in that situation, they all had a choice.
Right.
Everybody made a choice. The result was a person's not here. That's something I had to realize, and I had to realize and really respect that part of it. As painful as it was, I had to realize that at the end, even though he's not here, the officer that shot him made a choice, and my son made a choice. Now, some people will look at that and say, well, that's not honoring your child. In a way, it is. Because I'm realizing that at the end of the day, it's still, everybody still has a choice. We're bound by our choices.
That's true.
Every choice we make, that payment's due. It may not be due today, but it's gonna be.
But
due.
it will come back around. The due date, it will come. Yeah, it will.
And I realized that even with me, in the choices that I made with dealing with the grief and alienating people, those were choices. And those that's gonna be payable soon. Not later. It may not be now, but it'll be later. All that stuff that I had done to people during that time, all that anger, all that frustration, all that rage, directed at the wrong people, hurting people. I mean, not physically hurting people, but
emotional.
Yeah.
And mental. Yeah.
That's gonna be due. The only thing I can do with that is seek absolution for that. I made amends by apologizing to my ex-wife because she didn't deserve any of that stuff. She didn't deserve any of the things that were thrown at her. Not the anger, not the rage, not the infidelity, not any of that. So I had to kind of put that in its proper perspective and say, this is what this is, and be like, this is not exactly the whole picture, but it's enough of a picture for me to see where I'm wrong at or where I can improve at. And that's a daily process right now. It's still a daily process. I mean, even at the acceptance stage of the whole grief process, I'm learning that that's not true acceptance, because you still have those moments where you do look at a picture of your child and you shed tears. You do remember a moment, and for me, I can say for me, I can't say for anybody else, but those who can relate, then you go back to a moment that you spent with a loved one, and it's a important moment, and it brings you down to your knees. Or you think about something that your loved one said, and it was very profound, and it had meaning for you, and it just takes you back. It doesn't take you to a weird space, but it takes you to a space like, damn, I wish they were here. Or it brings tears. It brings you to a point of profuse crying. That's happened with me a couple times. I remember something that my son said, and it brought me to tears, to a whole, runny nose, the whole runny nose event. And
I think that's to be expected, though. And I want you to give yourself a little grace in that area. And I heard you mention, sometimes you would regress in your steps of grief. But I don't think there's any written way to grieve a loved one. Nevertheless, a child, no one can tell you how you should grieve your child. Yes, we are ultimately responsible for how we treat people. And I know that this is a very popular saying that hurt people. And they do. And whether it's intentional or not, I think we are all responsible. I know that I have hurt people, not intentionally, but it doesn't mean that I didn't do it, right? But I think that when you were talking about how you would remember certain things about your son, that you would cry, I don't think that means that you haven't accepted it or anything like that. I think that there will maybe possibly come a point in time where maybe you're able to think about these things, and it doesn't. I think that even right now, I don't want to say it's progression, because how's their progress? Why are we measuring or grading how we grieve someone? Why do we do that to ourselves, right? Like, there's no right and wrong way. I mean, there's kind of a wrong way, but I think that even right now, with you being able to tell your story and talk about him without profusely crying right now, that's, you talked to that man maybe 5-6 years ago, I don't think he would have been able to sit here in this chair and talk about your son right now. So there's growth, if that's what we want to call it, in these steps of grief. And I think that, again, I can't speak from your standpoint, but I do know, as far as like trauma, I think that we have to, because that's traumatic.
Very much so.
Let's be clear. It's traumatic to lose a child. So let's not, that is its own version of trauma. Yeah. So I think that I have to look at it spiritually, I think that if we allow, and I know you were saying you were bargaining with him, like, okay, God, can we just switch places, right? And I think we do that in a lot of things, right? Not just with grief, like, oh my God, can I just do this? but and he'd be like, and he's like, no, no, absolutely not. And I was gonna say no to that, so why even bother? But we try.
Oh, yeah.
I know that the Bible says we have not because we ask not, but not that. But I think that with that trauma, there comes a point in time where we realize that we have this Father. We like to assign gender to God. We like to assign gender, and I know He's a good Father. We like to go to that, but we have to allow Him to come into our heart, because we do know, I personally know Him to be a comforter.
Right.
In my time of sorrow and in my heartbrokenness, like there's times where I spoke about it when I introduced myself, where I had experienced trauma and I was broken and shattered into so many pieces. But in the moment, you couldn't tell me I was broken and shattered, because I thought I wanted to appear like, oh shit, sis is strong. Like,
oh yeah,
she is strong and she has got it all together, and I didn't have it together at all. I was just a hot mess. But when I finally, as I began to grow with God and allow Him to really come into my heart, is when He was really able to start healing some places and put this piece back together and put this piece back together. And even those pieces that were like, when we break a glass,
some pieces don't fit.
Not even so much as that, when we're sweeping it up, and a couple days later you find a shard like that had landed way somewhere over there.
Yep.
He picked up that piece and put me back together, but it takes time, right? It takes time.